Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is spirituality and unforgiveness, and we're fortunate to have with us Dr. CPoe to talk about spirituality and unforgiveness. And of course, Dr. Poe, let me welcome you to the show this morning. And to say, Dr. Poe, how very, very glad we are to have you here to talk about spirituality and violence. This is just another continuation of a series that you've given us dealing with spirituality. You've talked about spirituality and depression, which we believe to be one of the best shows that we've had an opportunity to deal with concerning depression. You've also talked about spirituality and self-esteem. People have been so encouraged and impressed by some of the information that you've been giving us, and we felt the same way in terms of dealing with spirituality and unforgiveness. I think the Master told us that forgive, and if you forgive, and etc. And I think that that will probably be your emphasis this morning. But let's give you an opportunity. But before we do that, let's give some of those who might not have had an opportunity to see spirituality, depression, and spirituality and self-esteem, and that excellent study that you gave us dealing with suicide among African Americans, just a whole number of things. Let's see if you can sort of give us some information about your background, your education, and that kind of information for those who might not know who Dr. CPoe is, and then we'll get into some kind of definition for, first of all, spirituality and then unforgiveness. And let's do it from that perspective.
Dr. Haney, I'm a Christian psychiatrist in private practice here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm also an associate minister at 15th Avenue Baptist Church. I'm involved in prison ministry at the Turner Center in Only, Tennessee. I've also, for many years, was involved in homeless ministry, and also I'm involved in a ministry of raising funds as well as clothes for a school in a very poor area in Durban, South Africa.
As a matter of fact, you were with us dealing with the issue of apartheid and some of those issues dealing with AIDS and et cetera from Durban, South Africa, I think. Dr. Poe, let's talk about this topic that we believe to be very, very important, but I think it's a topic that people never think about. Very, very few people ever think in terms of, first of all, very, very few people actually think in terms of spirituality, and they think perhaps less of unforgiveness. But let's talk about that, and let's have you to give us some kind of definition in terms of what you mean when you talk about spirituality and unforgiveness.
Yes. Now, spirituality is essentially the pursuit of a growing relationship with God or with God by whatever name. Spirituality then is a reflection of that pursuit in so many different ways. Unforgiveness, as I see it, is a condition in which I have lost the right relationship with God. It's a condition that's a byproduct of me refusing to forgive others as God has forgiven me. And so unforgiveness is a condition. Spirituality is a pursuit of a growing relationship with God.
Well, now, why is it that we rarely think of spirituality and unforgiveness within this context? I mean, I think all of us are familiar with forgiveness and unforgiveness and et cetera, but we never think of it as having a psychological or health or mental impact. Why is it that for whatever reason we've been kept from that kind of perspective?
Well, I think that perhaps up until the last 15 years, the medical profession, and particularly, and also the psychiatric branch of medicine, has not researched the relationship between spirituality or faith in God, regular prayer, regular worship, and how it impacts physical and mental health. We do have studies now that have been done over the last 15 years that show conclusively that persons who have an active faith in God, persons who pray on a regular basis, persons who attend a place of worship on a regular basis have better mental health and better physical health, live longer, and report a greater degree of life satisfaction.
And so we know that to be statistically correct in terms of we've got the figures to demonstrate that. And this is nothing that's simply coming off the top of our head in reference to that. We've got actual figures to demonstrate that. Speak to that.
Well, we can't explain it in terms of demonstrating the particular mechanisms, but we do know that if I have what's called intrinsic faith, faith that evidences itself in how I treat other people, if I am willing to forgive other people who hurt me, who offend me, who hurt persons who are close to me, then this has a positive effect upon my immune system. And we have come to understand that the condition of a person's immune system has a tremendous impact on whether or not that person will develop chronic infection, and as a result of that will develop other chronic illnesses such as hypertension, diabetes, coronary artery disease, renal disease, and so on.
And so all of these things can be connected to unforgiveness.
Yes. Well, see, now we have to back up a little bit, because unforgiveness is a condition. It's a condition of unresolved hostility. It's a condition of unresolved anger. But it doesn't just develop out of the blue. It is a consequence of persistent self-centered behavior. It is a consequence of rebellion against the will of God. It is a consequence of me not treating other people like I want them to treat me. When I disobey the commandments of God, which say, in effect, love others as I have loved you, the consequence of that is I enter a condition of unforgiveness. I enter a condition of unresolved anger or hostility or unresolved rage. And it is the hostility or the rage that suppresses or impairs my immune system, rendering me more vulnerable to chronic physical illnesses, and as a result to chronic emotional illnesses as well.
And so it's crucial that individuals who have been wronged by another individual forgive that individual.
Yes.
This is what the Master said, how many times should you forgive? And he said, time and time over again. Is that the thrust of what we're saying here?
Absolutely. I'm saying no matter how much a person has been mistreated by other people, no matter how close that person was to you, it may have been a brother, it may have been a sister or a mother or a father, it may have been a husband or wife. No matter how severe the abuse was, no matter how deep the pain was or the betrayal was, God calls the abuser to forgive. Now, if I'm willing to forgive, then God will turn the injury into a benefit or into a blessing for me. If I'm not willing to forgive, then the anger and the resentment that I harbor will do damage to my health, to my mental health as well as to my physical health, and will impair my ability to show love and concern for other people.
You know, Dr. Poe, people often, when you talk about the psychic of individuals, people often find it very, very difficult to understand how their inability to unforgive will have all of these psychological impacts. Is there some kind of activity in the body that produces this, these illnesses and et cetera, et cetera? You see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm searching for an answer in terms of how these things work myself.
Well, okay, first of all, the mind is above the physical body. And therefore, the real problem is not so much the body in unforgiveness. The real problem is the mind. That is, what I decide to do. For instance, if you offend me and I decide in my mind that I'm not going to forgive you, if I decide that I want to get even with you or I want to see you hurt, that increases my fear, the fear in my mind. And the fear in my mind then begins to impact the functioning of my brain and the rest of my body. It renders my body then more vulnerable to infection. All right?
And of course, let's hold it right there, Dr. Poe, and let us take this first commercial break, after which we'll be back with our audience. Fear